Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Nur the Light. American author Mark Brown said, "Sometimes being a brother is even better than being a superhero," as this rings true for today's featured profile, Ahmed Hassim. The ocean, with all its treasures and pleasures, can sometimes be a dangerous place, as Ahmed's brother discovered. So sit back and see the true bond of a love in action.
The true bond of brotherhood can be seen when one brother sacrifices life and limb for the other. In the case of the Hassim brothers, Ahmad and Tariq, this came true on August 13, 2006, with devastating consequences. The day started off quite uneventful, as the two brothers set out for their morning junior lifesaver training at Muizenberg Beach.
Myself, my friend, and my brother, we were going to act as the patients that needed rescuing on that morning. On that day, my friend was in the shallows, I was in the middle, and my brother was the deepest in the water. I would probably say we were about 10 meters apart, away from each other, 10 to 15 meters away from each other. And as I looked out at him, looking out towards the ocean, something caught the corner of my eye coming from my right-hand side. And as I looked underneath the water, that's when I saw a 4.7 meter great white shark moving towards my brother. So I just figured if I had to scream, "Tariq, there's a shark," then I just think that, he would have obviously panicked and that would have just made the shark go for him. So at that same time, as I turned around, I started drumming on top of the water to draw the shark's attention away from my brother and towards myself. At that point, with the drumming, I just saw this fin turn and then come towards me, towards underneath the water. I remember taking my right leg and wanting to just throw it over the shark. And at that point, my right leg did not want to come forward, and I couldn't understand why this right leg wasn't coming forward. So I turned around to see what had happened, and that's when I saw that half my leg was in the shark's mouth already.
Ahmad lost half of his leg during the attack, but this never stopped him from going back and facing his deepest fears. He started his rehabilitation in the pool at the Sports Science Institute of South Africa. Since then, he has made a name for himself as a Paralympian, going on to represent his country at the Paralympic Games in 2008 and 2012, where he won a bronze medal, and finally at the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games.
I've got medals from Berlin, gold medals from Berlin, at swimming championships from Brazil, from all Africa Games, moving all the way up this way. And then obviously the pride of my collection being my Beijing stuff, which was my first international swimming competition, which was held in Beijing, China, and that was my first Paralympic Games. Then moving down to London, 2012, where I got a bronze medal for the men's 100-meter butterfly. I just got back from Rio now, and obviously just going to put that together and kind of complete my hat trick, which is what I wanted as an athlete.
The ocean and all that live in it remains one of Ahmad's biggest passions. He has dedicated his life to the protection of sharks and has since become a global ambassador, advocating for sharks from overfishing. It's a truly remarkable story of the boy who was attacked by a feared animal and goes on to be its biggest guardian.
In 2015, December, I got invited back to the United States to actually get an award, which is the Global Shark Guardian Award, which was given to me from the UN Shark Coalition. And basically what it entails is just my work that I've been doing for conservation all around the world. And it's not just sharks, it's rays and other marine species. I mean, obviously with sharks and stuff, sharks are the apex predator in our oceans. And what we tend to not understand is that 100 million sharks are killed per year, especially for their fins and other shark products. And you have some populations that are, some populations of shark and rays that are at a decline of about 99% already. So it's up for us, to protect the planet and just to come out there and make sure that these species are, have a chance of survival.
Ahmad's younger brother plays a huge role in his life. Tariq Hassim not only witnessed the attack, but has been a great support to Ahmad throughout his swimming career.
Went there. When you go look for him, as soon as we got there, I didn't think about putting my hand up because that's all I wanted to do is help him to be safe. So no, I wasn't big on my sport. I was just doing it for fun, and then I got very motivated when he was training for Beijing. So I decided to help him and train with him as well, and I got very motivated to train as hard as he was training. We pushed each other, we jumped together, we swam together. He went to Beijing that year. I made a couple of Western Province teams for life-saving, so it all worked out, like just pushing each other hard and training together, which we love. We love motivating each other as well.
Benjamin Franklin said, "From adversity comes opportunity." And Ahmed Hassim is living proof of this. He has taken his greatest challenge in life and turned it into his greatest opportunity to be better. In so doing, he's bringing awareness to the plight of sharks and the ocean in general. He's a true living hero to young and old.
If there has ever been a story of truer bravery, I have yet to hear it. Ahmed has become not only an example of pure love, but also a champion in the conservation of sharks. Much respect to him. It's time now for our wellness segment, and Sister Nariman Richards is back on the couch to join me. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Nariman, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam, Mariam.
This week we're finding out a little bit more about parenting, focusing more specifically on the journey through adolescence to adulthood. Nariman, why is this the most difficult or rather challenging period in which to parent?
Well, first off, Mariam, let me just say that the parent-child relationship is the longest lasting social tie that we as humans establish. So it's worth our while to put in some time and effort to establish healthy bonds with our kids. This period in a child's life is difficult because they are establishing their own identities. That's the short answer, really. The difficulty for us is that we are challenged by the fact that they have disconnected from us because they're trying to find their own interest. They're trying to establish who they are. And most times we take this personally, and this is what creates the challenge for us and the conflict with our teens. Yeah, that's basically what the biggest challenge is during this period.
How does one maintain healthy parent-child boundaries within the relationship?
I think the first thing to do is to recognize their need for independency and to be willing to see that and to understand that they need some space to develop through this. The need for us to understand that we are separate from them, that a boundary is like a circle you draw around yourself, and so we must understand where we end and where they begin. The problem that we have is, yes, children push boundaries, often they do, but parents also overstep boundaries. So we get out of our box into their box. And establishing those boundaries will start with you, establishing your own values first, and then establishing what you want from the relationship with your child and communicating that.
What are the biggest fears of parents about their children, and how does this drive the way they parent?
I think the biggest fears that we have is that our children won't succeed and won't measure up. And when I say measure up, it's normally measuring up against a standard that's been established by society. And that could vary from community to community, it could vary from culture to culture, but there's a standard. And we're all wanting our kids to measure up. So our biggest fear is that they're not going to measure up. And this drives our behavior. It's actually quite sad because we lose a bond between them because sometimes they will never measure up because the expectations are actually set for a standard which they are never going to feed into. So this is our fears, and in those instances we try and overcompensate, and we step into the boxes, like I said, and we overfunction for them because we want them to succeed.
Why is it so important to learn a new way of parenting in our technologically advanced world?
Look, technology is here, and as much as we want to kick and scream against it, we have to accept it. And the sooner we embrace it, the better. And the sooner we recognize that these technologies, the internet leading the field, obviously, impacts the way we think. Not only the way our children think, the way we think as well. Whether it's deliberate or unintentional, or whether it's subtle or in your face. And learn how to work our way around it. It's also a wonderful way to open communication with our children, because when you speak to them on their level, they immediately want to engage with you. So if I know an app that my kids know, obviously they know it better than me, but if I can at least speak to them about it, they'll engage.
I may not be a parent yet, but I feel like I'm getting a head start in knowing what will be expected of me. My nieces and nephews better watch out, as I will be practicing on them. Shukran, Sister Nariman, for that enlightening information.
Shukran to you, Mariam.
Newcastle is the third largest city in KwaZulu-Natal, and this week we're heading there to find out more about Muslims.
Newcastle was founded in 1864 and has continued to grow as an economic centre for northern KwaZulu-Natal. Shortly after some industrial Indian traders saw opportunity and set up shop, many of those traders were Muslims who established a foothold for themselves and the religion of Islam in the region.
I think the first Muslims arrived in Newcastle in around the 1900s, early 1900s, and got into shops. Little shops. There are certain prominent families that have been in business for decades and decades. And that is how they got here. My grandfather arrived first from India as a tradesman, an artisan. He was brought in to work in the mines in Danakol, in Den Haag, to put the support beams on the underground. And from there, he branched off into his own as a building contractor. He's built many buildings, especially mosques, and every one of them today is regarded as a national monument. The crowning glory and his last project was the Sufi Mosque in Ladysmith, which was built on a shoestring budget, without plans. Every day he would walk into the site and do the inscriptions on the floor, and the artisans would have to follow. I had the privilege of working towards the tail end of the completion of the mosque, in as far as building the madrasa on the side.
The Jami Mosque is considered the oldest and was built right in the center of town. Today, it is surrounded by a number of shops, but prayers are still offered 5 times a day. One of Newcastle's most well-known Muslims was Maulana Qasim Muhammad Sima. He established the very first Darul Uloom, which has gone on to produce some of South Africa's most learned scholars. Today, other Darul Ulooms are being established in the area.
We started this Darul Uloom in 2008. And I came to this Masjid al-Nurani, as an imam. And of course, what we have been taught by our teachers, that whatever we learned, we must impart and educate our children. And with that motivation, we started this Darul Uloom.
Mufti Sahib is building on the great legacy that the town holds for Muslims in South Africa. The school is currently being built on land acquired and will also feature an orphanage.
We have a big, massive land of 6,000 square meters, where we are intending to have, inshallah, a full-fledged orphanage also, irrespective of the race or the nationality. Any child who is born and parentless is going to be taken care of in the Sunnah-inspired environment, and that is our aim. As of now, we are teaching alim course, full alim course, then Hifz bil Hadr. That is something very special with the Hifzul Quran. Not anyhow Hifzul Quran, with the Hadr and with all the rules of Tajweed. And then we have also Imamat course, and very, very strict with the Tarbiyat. Whatever we teach, there must be a practical form of it. And we really insist on that and emphasize on that, on the Tarbiyat.
The Nurani Mosque continues to call people to prayer and is considered the second oldest after the Jami Mosque. It is also one of several in the area and was built to serve the local community, who moved here because of the Group Areas Act.
The early buildings would be the mosque in Newcastle, in Allen Street, the Madrasa building in Allen Street. Those were the first buildings. Many shops were built by Muslims, by the Sidats, the Dawjis, the Wouter families, the Mullah families, in the center of town. Many of them still stand today. And very much later, the Darul Uloom in Newcastle was purchased, which was a Catholic school and a convent school. And that was turned into the first Darul Uloom in South Africa. Still stands today. And as far as I know, they have about 400 or 500 students there, many of them boarding there, staying there. And subsequently, I had the good fortune of supervising the Islamic Center in Paradise, which I think we have 20 classrooms there, which is today being used as a tertiary school as well as madrasa. And funds were raised by the Muslim public.
Islam continues to grow in this northernmost part of KwaZulu-Natal as Muslim foreigners settle here. Newcastle Muslims can be proud of their Islamic legacy and their place in the history of the South African Muslim story.
The history of Muslims in South Africa is quite fascinating and should be celebrated as much as possible. These stories go a long way in recognizing our contribution to this beautiful country we call home. Next up is our travel segment in none other than Roodepoort, Gauteng.
Roodepoort on the outskirts of Johannesburg is home to one of its biggest kept secrets, the Walter Sisulu Botanical Gardens, a natural wonderland complete with its own waterfall.
There are many various spaces like this around Joburg. However, none share this natural landscape that you see behind me. The other ones are sort of parks because they are not as strict as this one. They are not a botanical garden. This is one of the botanical gardens under the Sunbee stable, including Kirstenbosch. In fact, throughout South Africa in every province, there's one of these botanical gardens.
The Walter Sisulu Botanical Gardens offers the visitor a serene space to pass the day away, with numerous picnic spots as well as leisure and educational activities.
We've divided our gardens. We've got a children's garden, we've got a water-wise garden. Each garden has got its theme where we're trying to teach people certain aspects. We've got a medicinal garden, we've got a bird and butterfly garden. We also have a geological garden.
It may only be a 20-minute drive from downtown Johannesburg, but the Walter Sisulu Botanical Gardens allows the visitor to enter a whole new world. If you've never been, grab a picnic basket and experience it for yourself. Johannesburg's diverse eating scene just keeps getting better as more and more places from other countries open up. If you're in the mood for some amazing and authentic Turkish food, then head over to Melville, where a new restaurant has just opened its doors.
Special dish here we cook in the pan, which is we use beef fillet, more soft, and we don't even marinate that meat. Plus we add some vegetables, we cook and serve on the pan and some flame under. Till you finish your food will be still hot.
Turkish food is well known for its freshness as well as flavorful dishes, and the food here is a perfect example of this. The shawarma remains one of its best sellers.
If you come here to eat, you'll see the difference. If the food is good, you'll come back. If it is food not good, even if free of charge, you won't enter in the shop no more. I'm like this, if I eat some food somewhere else, if I like, I will go and I will tell you I eat there, it was good. If wasn't good what I ate there, I won't say anyone and I won't step in that shop even if free of charge.
colourful vegetables are the perfect starters, and guests are encouraged to take their time sampling dishes while engaging in casual conversation. Come hungry as the portions are big and can fill a stomach in no time. If you like to get lost, then the Honeydew Maze is just the place to go. Visitors are given a brief introduction as to what they can expect before, as well as what they can see.
The giant maze has got nearly 2.6 kilometers of pathways inside it. It's designed around 5 secret gardens, as we call them, and each garden is like a gateway into another section of the maze. It's played on a quiz trail, so it's very task-oriented. You go in little teams, normally of 4 people to a team, and your game is to complete your task, i.e. find all the 5 gardens and find the 10 question boards which are all over the maze.
The maze offers the visitor a fun-filled experience of searching, finding and identifying animals and insects. Don't be alarmed though, as the animals and insects are plastic and therefore harmless.
By no means stressful or difficult, it's just a question of, if you want, almost diligence of finding your way around. And because it's task-oriented and because there are other people in the maze, you're naturally competing with other people from your group or complete strangers. And at the same token, it's very social in the maze. So it's, people help you out. A perfect stranger will give you an answer to a question that you don't know the answer to, and so on.
Visitors are urged to wear comfortable clothing and shoes, as there's quite a bit of walking to be done. It's an afternoon of fun that won't be forgotten easily.
We traverse the country every week in search of stories to enlighten and entertain. We hope that you enjoy everything we come up with, and if you have any suggestions or criticism, we would appreciate if you share them with us. We have come to the end of another show, and we're playing out with a beautiful nasheed. Kinna mare mokonda kiri aribuwe ribona nenghape. Assalamu alaikum.
Of the night, beyond the city lights, I feel you in my heart. I constantly fall, I hear as you call, come close.